Hey everyone, it's your guy Barry, and today we're continuing on with our Sopranos Episodes Tier List.
Salute, Barry. Turn up your record players, everyone. I just downed a couple of Italian espressos, and I'm ready to start spitting fire on this batch of episodes.
All right, we better start the tier list before that shit wears off. Hold on a second, where's Donnie?
He just texted me. He's making another gabagool and peppers hoagie, then he's hopping on.
For fuck's sake, he's already had like 3 of those today. Well, let's get started anyway. We can rank the test stream before he gets back. I know he'll just shit all over this one.
I'm just going to cut to the chase. This episode is a goddamn masterpiece.
Yeah, I totally agree. The dream sequences on this show were always well done, but this episode knocks it out of the park.
Word. My skin crawls every time Tony's teeth start falling out, and I've rewatched this episode like 1,000 times.
Chase perfectly captures the essence of what it's like to dream. We've all had dreams like this where things are eerie and out of place, and we wake up relieved that it's over, but still feeling that sense of unease.
Hey, what's happening, guys?
Hey, Don, we were just discussing the test dream.
Yeah, and I don't want to hear a word out of your bitch-ass mouth about how it belongs down in D-girl tier.
Quite the opposite, Joe. In fact, I'm surprised your monkey brain could comprehend all the deep shit going on in this episode. The test dream is crucial to the show's meta. It's not an episode for casuals, but for hardcore fans who've been paying close attention.
You calling me a casual? Need I remind you which one of us has the Satriale's logo tattooed where the sun don't shine?
Nobody cares. Anyway, the main theme of Season 5 is Tony's evolution as a leader, which is perfectly exposited in the test dream. I won't have it anywhere but S tier.
All right, I was leaning towards A originally, but you sold me on S. Even the B plot in this episode with Valentina is pretty good.
Man, don't get me started on Valentina. On God, Tony's hottest Gumar.
Facts.
Couldn't agree more. Now let's back up a bit and look at something from Season 1. Personally, I think this is a pretty forgettable episode, but Joe was very insistent we discuss Boca.
Boca literally might be the least talked about episode.
And it's time we change that. Listen to me, y'all are sleeping on Boca. Everyone always remembers this episode as the one where Junior munches the muff.
Actually, a pretty hilarious storyline.
Yeah, I LOL every time he throws the pie in that bitch's face.
Did you know that was an homage to The Public Enemy, William Wellman's 1931 gangster epic starring James Cagney?
Yeah, Joe, everyone knows Chase was a Public Enemy simp. That doesn't change the fact that Boca is mid at best.
Shut up and let me cook. Boca is chock full of iconic moments. Tony telling the guy in the restaurant to take his hat off is a top 10 scene for me. Tony is such a giga chad there.
For real. We also get that scene in the Bing, where Tony is contemplating how to handle the situation with Meadows' soccer coach. The song they play is a banger, and Tony's frustration is palpable.
And don't forget about the golf course scene, where Tony is breaking Junior's balls over whistling in the wheat field.
All right, I'll concede this episode has some great clippable moments. But in terms of the series as a whole, Boca is pretty inconsequential.
Just like your presidency. But I don't know, Donnie, this episode contains the inciting incident for the impending war between Tony and Junior.
Yeah, a plot thread that fizzles out after the end of Season 1. And let's not pretend the writing in this episode is any good. That ending scene would have played like something out of The Simpsons, if not for Gandolfini's performance.
Let me put it plainly, Boca goes in A tier or I walk.
You senile fucking mouth breather. This episode deserves A tier like you deserve a second term.
Joe, I'm higher on this episode than Don, but it's definitely not A tier. Let's compromise at B. Next up, we have one I know Don is excited for, Season 2's Commendatori.
This one's an all-timer for me, boys. First off, this episode introduces us to Furio Giunta, a made man from the Naples Mafia headed by Don Vittorio.
Hell yeah. You won't find a bigger Furio stan than me. Barack, remember when I grew my hair out like his after seeing this episode for the first time?
I think that was during George's administration, but I'm sure you look drippy as hell, Joe. I was pretty lukewarm on Furio at first, but he reached instant legend status when he beat the shit out of that little kid.
Exactly, and the shit with Furio is just a small part of what makes this episode great. Tony Sirico steals the show as Paulie Walnuts. Frankly, this episode is peak Paulie. The part where he takes one look at the pichadou in the restaurant and decides to go back to the hotel leaves me in stitches every time.
Yeah, and when he hates the authentic Italian food, my guy just wants some macaroni and gravy.
I think the scenes with Paulie perfectly sum up the thesis of the episode. The characters have these romantic expectations that their experience in the old country will be like Michael's in Godfather 1, but in the end, their trip is pretty mid.
The gang thinks they'll be accepted in Italy because they have Italian heritage, but really the locals see them as trashy American tourists. Like the scene in the coffee shop where Paulie tries to strike up a conversation with those Italian guys, and they ignore him.
Hey, fun fact, did you guys know David Chase was an extra in that scene?
Fuck me, yes, Joe, it's basic Sopranos lore, everyone knows that. But we can't do this episode justice without mentioning the soundtrack. Andrea Bocelli's Cante Partiro is a motherfucking banger, no cap.
Hard agree, Donnie. So from what I can gather, it sounds like you want to put it in S tier?
Well, it would be S tier, but Tony doesn't bang Annalisa, so I have to knock it down to A.
Shit, yeah, she was a dime. Big L on Tony for not laying that pipe.
I think A is a solid choice. All right, next up we have University from Season 3. Where do you guys stand on this one?
University? You tripping, Barry? We talked about this episode last time, for Christ's sake.
Fucking hell, Joe, that was college. University is a different episode, and it ranks as one of the best in my opinion. We really get punched in the gut with Ralphie's horrific murder of Tracy.
Ralphie's murder of Tracy serves as a reminder that even when we laugh at these guys, they still cause irreparable harm.
In a show full of violent psychopaths, Ralph has to be the worst of them all, right?
That will be decided when we make our Sopranos characters alignment chart. But what I really like about this episode is how the A and B plots seamlessly weave together. The parallels between Meadow and Tracy show us two opposite extremes of the mafia lifestyle.
Exactly. If Meadow was born into a different class and didn't have Tony's protection, she could have ended up just like Tracy. Tony understands this, and it deeply disturbs him. Her death weighs heavily on his conscience for the remainder of the series.
Guys, you want to know what I've always wondered about this episode?
What's that, Joey?
Do you think Noah fucked Caitlin?
Noah? Don't you mean Jamal Ginsburg, the Hasidic homeboy?
Whatever the fuck you want to call him. There's something so strange to me about the way that scene happens where she visits him. And in the next scene, she's acting all chipper, like someone just gave her the D.
The Sopranos is like art, Joe. We can all have different interpretations, and none of us are wrong.
Personally, I could care less. The Noah character is cringe as fuck, but it's an S-tier episode anyway, and I haven't even mentioned the music. Living on a Thin Line from the Kinks' 1984 album Word of Mouth is absolutely fucking goated, and easily the best theme of the series.
Bet I love getting obliterated on some Zaza and blasting that shit on repeat. For that song alone, University belongs in S tier.
I'm with you guys 100%. It's going in S tier. All right, the final episode we're ranking today is Christopher from Season 4.
Do we even need to discuss it? Obviously D tier.
Yeah, Barry, throw it in D and let's head over to George's stream. He's about to set a new world record in Road to Respect Any Percent.
Not so fast. You guys are just bandwagoning with the normies who constantly hate on this episode. I think the whole Columbus Day plotline was a really funny deconstruction of how seriously some people take identity politics when in reality they could give two shits. It was ahead of its time and plays incredibly well when viewed as a satire of the modern-day culture wars.
Hard disagree. Every fucking scene is so clumsy and heavy-handed. The audience is beat over the head with the theme of the episode.
The dialogue is awkward and contrived, and characters who never seem to be too caught up in Italian pride behave completely over the top. One of the worst episodes.
But you have to admit, the episode introduces many pivotal plot lines for the whole season.
Plot momentum doesn't equal quality screenwriting.
Yeah, why are you riding this episode's dick so hard anyway, Barry?
Jesus, guys, it's not like I'm in love with the episode. I just don't think it deserves the constant hate.
No, it does. It's a dog shit episode. Put it at the bottom where it belongs.
I'll admit it's not as bad as in Camelot, but I could list like 75 episodes off the top of my head that are better. D tier, and that's final.
All right, fine, but I'm not going to forget this when Joe tries to put Johnny Cakes in S tier.
Johnny Cakes, a little light in the loafers, huh, Joe?
Trust me, Don, the Vito plotline from Season 6A is underrated as fuck.
All right, I'll give it another watch. We should probably get to George's stream, though.
Yeah, he just texted me he got a PB in the Chop Shop split.
Fuck, really? He's got a real shot at record then. Headed to the stream now.
All right, see you over there, Don. Good work today.